be nice. It must be nice to have Washington on your side. It must be nice. It must be nice to have Washington on your side. Look back at the Bill of Rights, which I wrote. The ink hasn't dried. It must be nice. It must be nice to have Washington on your side. Somebody has to stand up for the South. Somebody has to stand up to his mouth. If there's a fire you're trying to douse, you can't put it out from inside the house. I'm in the cabinet, I am complicit in watching him grabbing at power and kiss it. If Washington isn't gonna listen to disciplined dissidents, this is the difference, this kid is out.
Dave, nice shirt. I like this shirt that you're wearing.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's not your usual sweater.
My usual cardigan.
Your usual cardigan.
What
are those, like ice cream cones? Like
I thought you were.
They are actually pineapples. No, I'm not advertising myself as a swinger. I know that's a thing. I don't know how true that is, but I am not advertising myself.
I've never heard that
before.
Wait, you've never heard that?
Heard about Adirondack chairs on your front yard. If you leave two of them, that's the sign.
Well, basically, what you need to be very careful of is if you are hosting a party, don't put out a fishbowl for people to put their keys in, because then they'll get the wrong idea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That's what you don't want to do. But anyway,
I put out a crate and I tell people, put your clothes in there. I never have anybody.
Yeah, you are just you just go right into it. So, this is like one of the only comics that I don't want to say it like that, but I don't know how else to really say it, because I said this last time. A lot of the comics that I say, hey, we should do an episode about this, turn out to be absolute trash. And we just do it.
Yep.
But this Deadpool Dead Presidents, this is from 2012, if I'm not mistaken. 2012. This is and you know what? I'm gonna say Deadpool Dead Presidents was written by Gary Dugan. Duggan. I'm not sure if that's Duggan.
He's the artist.
Oh, well, then they are wrong. It says writers Gary Duggan and Brian Posehn.
You're right. Sorry.
Posehn.
Yeah. Oh, Posehn. Excuse me. Isn't he the guy who was on like Big Bang Theory? He's like 7 feet tall and like enormous and has like the giant beard like Ken.
By the way, that now answers so many questions that I popped up during the reading of the comics.
Yeah.
The picture you just showed up, which, by the way, for those of you who are listening and can't see it, Ken has a photo he's showing us where he took a photo with him. So it's pretty cool. I wish you could see it, but you're not here. So tough shit.
And if it couldn't get any more on point, that photo that I took with him was in the alcove, in the vestibule entranceway to the Javits Center when I was at Comic-Con.
Nice,
man.
Nice.
I didn't know he was involved in comic books. I didn't know that.
I didn't know he wrote until recently.
But it doesn't surprise me because like just based on the way he looks and the way he talks, I'm like, this guy could be a comic book writer. He has a face for being behind the scenes. He's been a sitcom writer. He's been a sitcom writer for decades. The artist is Tony Moore. Anyone know anything about that guy, Tony Moore?
Are you sure it was Tony Moore did this series? 100%.
I mean, I'm just reading off of the page here. This is what it says.
I know he did Deadpool, but I didn't know it was this series. I thought it was some guy named Declan something. I'm completely off today, so I'm not sure.
Well, that's fine. And the color artist is Val Staples. If anything, I wish that my last name could be Staples.
But you're very vulnerable to the other guy in a fight named Staple Remover. So, that's a mixed blessing, John.
Either that or the other guy in a fight would be like Office Max.
Johnny Paperclip.
Johnny. Oh, yeah. I could. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, This conversation is reminding me of this Deadpool story. It's sort of like off the wall, crazy, but it goes in a direction and you don't see what direction it's going in until the very end. So this is 2012 Deadpool Dead Presidents. And here to talk about this with me is Mr. Jason Gurin. Jason,
hello.
how you doing?
Good to be here.
Good. What do you got there? Guns N' Roses on your shirt?
It's
Yeah, you do.
Transformers, but in the
Transformers.
Oh, Devastator. Nice.
yeah, appetite for construction.
Which also turned up, didn't that turn up in the comic?
Not
Transformers.
Devastator, I don't think.
Guns N' Roses, though, did come up.
Oh, Guns N' Roses did.
Right?
Oh
Yeah.
it did.
That was dropped.
Yeah. And then
Well,
like
he also
Deadpool
Deadpool
quoted
was singing
stuff.
lyrics.
Yeah, he was
Yes,
singing
Deadpool
lyrics.
was singing
Yeah,
lyrics
wow.
when he was
Jungle
killing
Ray.
people.
And then
As
Deadpool
one,
threw
one
his
does.
Deadpool
Yeah.
threw his mask at him and it got like blood all over his face.
Yeah.
Freaked
But
out.
that was great because even that was like, you were talking before about the pop culture references. That was
Right.
that old TV commercial for, I think it
Yeah.
was Coke,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Where he
the-
throws
the
him,
football
hey,
Yeah,
player,
kid,
right.
right?
here.
Coke or Pepsi.
Yeah.
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 Hey, kid, catch. So speaking of the another panelist is Mr. Ken Radner. How's it going, Ken?
Great. I am really this is going to be a good one. This was actually,
This is
I mean, this is a really, really good series. I really liked it. Everything about it was fantastic. So I'm excited.
I was just I mean, you know what? I guess I'll talk about this in a little bit. My take on it. But first, for the first time ever on the new version of the Hour of Comics is upon us, we have Mr. Dave Aguilar as our first guest. What's going
What's
on,
up,
Dave?
people? Hey, I'm not much, man. I'm excited. I can't wait to talk about that. I'm excited about two things. I can't wait to talk about this comic.
Mhm.
And number two, I've never been on the podcast where I get to see Radner's bare shoulders. So you know what? You look like a Victorian trollop with a beard, and I like it. I like it.
Well, I liked it more than one, sweetie.
All right.
Give me a 9 punts for a how's your father?
Wow, he's in total character. By the way, that's actually a Victorian working woman's voice that he's doing.
Yeah.
I didn't know
She
you could
worked
do
at a
voices, Ken.
she worked at a match factory making matches.
That's a good thing to make if you work in a match factory.
Yeah.
So
Just like you are correct. It is Tony Moore, and that is the Tony Moore of Walking Dead fame.
Oh, wow.
You see, that's why we need Jason on the show. I literally don't know jack squat about comic books and all that stuff. I just read them for fun. And then, Jason says, oh, that name only appeared in issues 4 through 17 and then number 29. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh,
And that's why.
this
Yeah.
today. I already forgot who the artist was 3 hours later. So thanks for reminding me.
Jason
It's
is
not-
Jason's comic book Rain Man. That's your role.
I think he's a little bit more knowledgeable about things than Rain Man.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
I'm quite a few brain cells this week. I've been at Pearl Jam all week.
That right.
Oh yeah.
Although, I mean, Jason did shave his beard in Florida so he wouldn't clog his own sink. So that's Rain Man wouldn't think of that.
Or would he?
That's very true. That's very true. No, he would have counted the hairs when you shaved them off.
So, all right. So here we go. After I don't know. I have no timer on my on my Zoom meeting thing. So after however long we've been talking, we're talking about Deadpool Dead Presidents. This was, what is this, like the third series of Deadpool comics? Does anyone know?
As far as
that
I think you might be right.
might be right.
Yeah, because
I know that
beforehand.
yeah, like Deadpool had his own series, and I'm not talking about mini series. I'm talking about, actual like monthly series. First one I think came out in the mid 90s, maybe the late 90s, and then he had another one, and then this is the start of his new, well, at the time it was new, of his new series. So this is issues 1 through 6 of Deadpool from 2012. And it is the story of how dead presidents were resurrected in the hopes of them improving the country. But surprise, surprise, you raise dead people from their grave, and it turns out that they're evil. Now, I don't recall exactly, but I think he only wanted to bring back one dead president, right? But then that dead president said, I'm going to kill you if you don't resurrect all the other dead presidents. Is that what happened?
I think at the beginning he brought a few.
A
Yeah.
few?
And
Yeah.
everybody.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all right. So this was
No.
what was this, 2012 or 2013, right?
Oh yeah, and
I think it started in 2012 and went into 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So in one of the ones, I think when he's fighting Washington at one point, and Deadpool's inside a minivan, and a couple of the presidents crush the sides of the minivan, and then Washington kind of like stabs a sword through the top of it to like pin Deadpool in it.
Right.
On the back of the minivan, there's some bumper stickers. All right. And you can see that the minivan was like, it seems like it had like a hippie, like it was owned by a hippie, because the license plate was like Earth Nerd, like ERHNRD. And there was a bumper sticker on the back, and the bumper sticker said, "Tea is the new Kool-Aid."
Oh shit!
Wow. Wow.
So that
Wow.
was that was when it was all starting. Obviously, that was the proto, that was the beginning steps to this whole bullshit that we find ourselves in now. But that was when I was like, wait a minute. I was like, tea is the new Kool-Aid? I was like, all right, what? Oh, that's because when Deadpool crashed out of the back window, he yelled, "Oh yeah!" So I'm like, all right, I get it, Kool-Aid. All right, that's funny. And then I was like, wait a minute, 2012 Kool-Aid tea. Oh my god. So I wonder if that's what they meant. But look, they talked all about the country being divided and stuff. I mean, one of the first panels is like,
it was the first panel.
Some good old boy fighting a guy, like fighting a dude with dreads.
2016.
I have a hypothesis. I have a hypothesis.
You have one hypothesis?
I have one hypothesis about what was his name? What was the sorcerer, the necromancer's name? Like Michael?
Michael. It was just Michael.
Like, was it Michael? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like really dull. It was like,
Steve?
hey,
Or
Joe.
Dumbledore as a.
You know who that is?
Yeah.
You know who that guy? Look at the face painting, right?
Wait.
The face painting.
Oh, you're going based on
it's
face
supposed to-
painting.
Yeah. And all the we got to bring America back and back to where it was.
Yeah.
He's the QAnon shaman.
Oh my goodness.
But he
years
wasn't a
now
guy
he's
then.
born.
That
What?
wasn't a
No.
thing then.
No, but he evolved into him. This is my hypothesis, Ken. Don't
This
fucking
is
take it from me.
hypothesis. Let him have a hypothesis.
Let me have it. What's a
thinking
shaman?
more-
A shaman is a sorcerer.
That
Nah.
is true. It works on many different levels.
He's
I was thinking he was
telling you.
more like a Mel Gibson style, Highlander. He's wearing a kilt.
So what I'm thinking here is if they ever actually did make this into a movie, Zach Galifianakis would have to play the necromancer.
Oh,
I mean,
that
like,
would be
tell-
amazing.
tell me I'm
Totally,
wrong.
I buy that.
Absolutely.
that would
100%.
work. That would work
Like,
100%.
I buy that.
It almost feels like this character was made with Zach Galifianakis in mind because they were going to make a movie.
It could have been. Seeing the type of stuff they did and the references they did, I would not be surprised.
So I am I'm looking through this book here, and it looks like he only resurrected Harry S. Truman in the beginning, because he goes like, who dares veto the eternal rest of Harry S. Truman? He goes, Mr. President, I brought you back so you can help us fix this country. And then that's when all hell broke loose. But yeah, it was only Harry Truman that he wanted to bring back, it seems. And then let's see. I'm gonna do this in real time. Yes, Truman.
Truman.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
It's a ghost. I'm sorry. There's a ghost behind me. I see hands emerging from the darkness. Ken sees.
dear.
Do you see
It's
the
coming
hands?
from inside the house.
It's coming
I
from
see.
inside the house.
All right, cool. Now I get to see. I'm wondering. I'm wondering if it's a kind of thing where he just summoned the one, and then it kind of
I thought he just screwed up the
it kind
spell.
of got out of control.
No,
he
he
did this-
intended. Oh, wait a second. Okay. So what seems to have happened is that when he was doing the thing, the whatever you call that, right, rising the dead, Captain America threw his shield at him, like in the
Right.
middle of his thing, which
Yeah.
kind of like interrupted what he was doing. Then Harry S. Truman came back, and yeah, and then it kind of cuts to what's the? I'm sorry, I keep forgetting what this lady's name is. What's her name?
Preston.
Preston. Yeah, and it
Yeah,
cuts to
Agent
Preston
Preston.
and her boss, not her boss. So let's see here. Yeah, so far we only have Truman. Truman is like going through the streets of New York in his
But then
ghost
it's like
wheelchair.
but then it just like flashes to New York, to Manhattan, and like FDR is like wheeling down the street.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was FDR, wasn't it? Okay, so that was FDR, and then it gets to a point where now, I guess at the end of the first issue, he goes into the what is it, like a courthouse or something? Liberty Hall, excuse me. He goes to Liberty Hall, and he kicks the door down in true superhero fashion, and all of the dead presidents are just chilling in there. They're partying. So George Washington appears to be the leader throughout this whole thing, and that's why he's the final boss at the end. I would go through everything that happened, except there's just so many fucking gags that they threw in. so many things.
Gags, so many puns. It reminded me.
Puns.
It reminded me of those, like the airplane movies and Mel Brooks movies where you have to watch it 4 times because in the same scene, there's one gag that makes you laugh, and now you're distracted, so you didn't see the other 3 gags that popped up.
Yep.
It was one after the other.
Yeah.
When Lincoln was yelling Booth getting the drop on him, I think I was laughing for a good 2
Right.
minutes. I forgot what I was reading.
The good thing about this, Dave, you're absolutely right. That is what happened in this book, but it's a comic book, so you can just like stare at the page for like 10 minutes and make sure you get all the gags that were coming in. One of my favorite ones was toward the end, where not Harry Truman, where President Taft was in a giant bathtub.
Yeah.
through space. And I'm like, this is Taft. This is how he gets resurrected from the dead, in a fucking bathtub.
I like when he gets up to fight him and he sees his dick and balls and he's like, oh no. And he's just like, because your boobs have boobs.
Yeah.
That was great, man.
boobs.
It was so funny.
Your boobs have boobs. And I love it. Now, so this was the first Deadpool comic that I had ever read. And so like 1 through 6, it was like 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. The first comic I was sort of thinking like, oh, like it's not as zany and wacky as I thought it was going to be. And then basically at the start of the 2nd issue, I was like, oh, how wrong I was. The first issue was an introduction to all the insanity. You get things like Ben Franklin as a ghost is Deadpool's sidekick now. And from what I understand, that is not just through this story arc. Through the rest of this series, Ben Franklin's ghost.
Dog.
Is that Jason?
They bring in Ben Franklin's dog at some point, Bats.
Yeah, his dog, right.
That's fantastic.
Now, this is, I mean, I suppose the way this conversation is going is a better way to discuss this comic, because while the things do happen in order, they happen really strangely. And in the last, episode, we were talking about Days of Future Past, which was 2 issues, and I was saying, some story arcs are 4 issues long, 6 issues long as 12 issues or whatever. And, all you really need is 2 issues. With this, I'm not even sure 6 issues is enough. They just, it was just one after another after another.
There was a lot. I agree. There was
All
a
right.
lot going on. The pace never let up on this comic for 6 issues.
So now I do want to do the individual takes from everyone here, because that's what I like to do. So I'm going to start with Jason. Jason, tell me your take on this comic, on this story arc.
I mean, it was just pure absurd hilarity. I mean, if that's your brand of humor, you're gonna like it. And for me, that's right up there for my brand of humor. So every page as I'm flipping, I'm giggling and reading along and just loving it. And clearly there's a story written into this, and it was a good story. But
It's
really,
a good story too. I'm like,
humor that really every panel just got you. Even some people get a little bored of Deadpool turning to the audience and saying something, but every time they did it in this, it fit perfectly. The other characters was going to be like, "What are you talking about?" He's like,
"What are you doing?
What are you explain this? We're going to just move forward."
But I love that he breaks the fourth wall. That's one of the reasons. So you guys know, we've been doing this podcast for a while now. I'm not a comic book fan. Nothing against comics. I just never got into the art form.
Not really big on comics. I got you.
But I'm starting to appreciate the art form. I actually gotten into some graphic novels as well. But what I like about that breaking the fourth wall is a lot of times he's cracking on the stereotypes and the tropes. And I appreciate that he is not like, they're not afraid to highlight, we do this bullshit all the time in these things. And it's self-aware. And I think that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. In the introductory pages, like in the second issue, he's like,
they were
well, if you didn't read the last one, I mean, what's wrong with you? But
Yep.
Well, he goes, the first time I saw him break the fourth wall, for me, the first time I saw Deadpool break the fourth wall in a comic, I'd seen it a million times in the movies, especially in Deadpool and Wolverine, where I mean, with all due respect to it, I felt like he overdid it in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. Because, it was like, all right, it's supposed to be for humor, and now you're basically just basing your character on it. But fine. We're not talking about the movie. We're talking about Deadpool, Dead Presidents. When something was being described, he was saying, like, oh, you resurrected the presidents because, you thought it would be a good idea. And then Deadpool turns to the audience in his panel, and he goes way back in the first issue. And like you were saying, Jason, they were like, who are you talking to? He goes, them. Who's them? He goes, no time to explain. And yeah, it definitely is true. It was like, because I had kind of just picked up from this one where there had been like a bunch of series before, I'm like, okay, I almost feel like I'm part of the joke because I never saw it happen before. So he was like, no time to explain. And I'm like, I think by saying that, you've pretty much explained it, that, you talk to the audience, the other people don't know what the hell you're doing, and it's just a funny thing. So
can I throw in there? I think it also builds a connection with the reader that in other comics you don't have. Because now he's literally talking to you, and that creates a different relationship. There's always a relationship between the characters in a book or a character in a movie or a comic and the consumer of that media. But this changes it because they're talking to you.
Yep.
And I think that actually makes the character more accessible, I guess, and easy to approach and connect with. I actually think it's a great tool, a great device.
Deadpool is the Gary Shandling of superheroes.
That's
basically
fantastic.
That's I mean, if you are not familiar with the Gary Shandling show from back in what the early 90s, late 80s, the Gary Shandling show, all of the characters, the entire cast was aware that they were on a show, but they still had their life events happening and all that stuff. So anyway, that's that. And Ken, let's get your take on these books.
This, it was such, I mean, it was really, really great. There was nothing about it that I could say overall I didn't like. I find that I think just by the general nature of Deadpool always having to do like those one-liners, like every time he's going to attack somebody, there's a one-liner. Anytime he shows up in a scene, there's a one-liner. It's just because there were so many of them. Some of them didn't quite hit, and some of them did. Some of them I was just like, all right, I get it. And some of them like, all right, that was a good one.
Yeah.
But everything about this was really great. I mean, the artwork was fantastic. The storyline was great. I love, as is always with Deadpool comics, they're always going to make fun of the more mainstream superheroes. And out of all the Avengers that show up, I think it's only Cap and Doctor Strange that have any dialogue in. I think and Thor.
Words to him
Yes.
Really.
Yeah, and I think the thing that was funny about Thor, I watched like a review of this also just to see if there was anything that I was missing. And one of the things that got pointed out to me, which I think was great, was that Thor was acting the way that someone acts when, like for example, like a popular guy sleeps with the nerdy girl, and then like he doesn't want anybody to know about it. He's like, this never. He's like, don't tell anybody about this, or I'll, like whatever, you'll taste the kiss of Mjolnir.
Right.
And then Deadpool's like, oh yeah, no, I won't. But that was a great team up. And he's like, we didn't team up. He's like, and you did so great. There will be endless mead for you in Valhalla. And then he's like, oh great, we'll have a great drink together. He goes, I didn't say I was going to drink with you.
Me, right?
Right.
Yes.
So
yes.
I thought that was really funny. And just like you said before, there was so much stuff packed into it. That's part of what I did is I went through it just to get through the story, to make sure I get in the story, I would see everything that happened. And then I just went through every panel, not every panel, every page, looking at all the panels. I wasn't even reading it. I didn't even read it a second time. I read through it once through, and then I went through and I'm like, all right, what's in here? Like, what's in this? I was looking, like, there's stuff that I know that I saw that probably means something, but like I'm missing it. Like when FDR first shows up, he's got some birthday balloons caught up in the spokes of his wheelchair, and it's like happy 5th birthday.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, that's gotta mean something. That's gotta, I don't, I have no idea what it means. It's gotta mean something. It has to, but I don't know what. But and there was other stuff, like I was saying before, them either having friends of theirs that they've worked before or fellow comedians actually be in the comic or have their names mentioned, like the MMA fighter.
In the crowd.
He's talking about
those people in the crowd.
Well, like in the crowd. Well, like, Posehn, who was one of the writers, was in the crowd with Daredevil, like next to him. And then
is that who that was? I actually wrote down.
Yeah.
Why is Satan in the audience with these guys?
No, it's Daredevil.
Daredevil. Now it explains everything.
Daredevil.
I am sure watching a fight.
And I am sure that all the other guys down there at the bottom were other people. There were 2 guys with beards next to Posehn. I'm sure there's somebody, I don't know who. And then there was a guy over on the other side, like over on the leftmost side of the panel, like with his head, who's like biting his nails, like freaking out. I was almost wanted to say that's got to be Rogan, but I don't know if he's like really friends with Posehn or not. But I was like, that could be, who else would be at an MMA fight in Vegas?
Yeah, well,
but there was so much stuff. That's why it's like I caught all this stuff, and when I saw in also this review, they threw in so much stuff. I'm looking and I'm like, I was like, oh my God, like when they're like Agent Adsit, and I'm like, you can't be that blatant. And I look
Yep.
at him and I'm like, that sure hell is
It
him.
is.
They'll go
Well,
blatant on this.
Yeah, I want to say I really
But it was great.
I like that, Deadpool is just that character that like people don't want to rely on him, but there is no one better for any of these jobs than Deadpool. Sort of reminds me of, like, let's just say Sean Spencer from Psych, Jake Peralta from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where it's like all of these people, they're just so irritating and you don't want to rely on them, but you're like, oh God, but he's just so good that we'll deal with it. And that's why he's just always there, because he's yes, he's incredibly irritating, but he is also incredibly effective. So,
Hey, it's
Well,
good
that's
to
the-
not be
that's-
able to die. It's handy.
right,
Well,
yes.
well, that's one thing they carried through them. And later on,
Mhm.
I think it was when he was either fighting Washington or Lincoln. He might have been fighting Lincoln.
Well,
And,
the Lincoln was the Vegas boxing match.
Yeah, when they're when they're in the match.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Lincoln's getting annoyed at him because he won't die. No matter what he's doing, he won't die. And Lincoln's like, what do you do? Why won't you just die? And like Deadpool's like, as always,
don't
he's
give
like,
up,
he's on
right?
the floor. He's got the
Yeah.
crap kicked out of him, and he's like, I'll never give
I just
up.
don't give up.
And they carried that into the movies. Is that you see he'll even though he's about to like go out, he's like he just will never give up.
And
that's one thing. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that in the final battle between him and Washington, after all the other dead presidents had been re-killed, one of them, I believe, even tripped and like got destroyed by an airplane propeller. Right?
Yes, like Indiana
Oh,
Jones.
the helicopter.
That's the first thing I
No,
thought.
yeah. It was the helicopter rotor. Yeah.
But anyway, so
And
when
he was
he's
like, "Oh my!" And it's just
he's
and I was like,
fighting
Indiana Jones.
he's fighting with George Washington at the very end, and he like cuts off his arm, and Washington says, "I trust you're going to make a stupid joke about me being disarmed now." like they just come to expect it. I do have one thing to say before I get to you, Dave. As far as the Washington fight, when he goes, I trust you're going to make this whatever joke about me being disarmed. And I feel like one of the reasons that Deadpool was so annoying, he made so many stupid jokes. He never took anything seriously. He dressed like Marilyn Monroe, for fuck's sake.
That was great.
And he shows his junk to JFK.
It shows it, to zombie JFK. But at the end, he goes, "No, I'm not joking. Now I'm fucking pissed." So it's like,
Yeah.
it like for those last few pages, I was like, "Oh shit, man, he's really pissed." Because he's not just like a superhero that's gonna get pissed at everything. He never gets angry, but now he's angry.
Yeah.
So the juxtaposition is really cool. So Dave Aguilar, our first guest. I know we've all been talking this whole time, but what are your thoughts and views? What were you picking up?
So I got to say, we've done a lot of episodes together of bad comics, and we've often discussed that if it weren't for the money Lara paid me, I wouldn't be your friend for making me read all this shit. Okay.
That's true. That's my wife.
This comic, you could tell Lara for a year, she doesn't have to pay me. I will remain your friend for a year based on this, because I had such a freaking good time reading this comic. First of all, the comedy, and now that I know that, what's his name? Posehn?
Posehn, yeah.
Posehn was one of the writers here. He was a writer on, for example, the Sarah Silverman program, which I just learned is not the Sarah Silverman show. It was actually called the Sarah Silverman program. He was a writer on that. And I love that show because I thought it was so funny. And it shows that there was comedy writers involved here. The artwork I thought was really great. I actually really enjoyed the artwork on it. The device of "Make America Great Again" I don't know if that was intentional, but they even showed a bunch of quote unquote patriots cheering on the dead presidents as they're trying to destroy America to bring it back to the old days and kill everybody. And they're like, yeah, kill everybody.
Woo!
Us, you know. So there was a lot of commentary and satire I thought was built into this. It was just a lot of fun. And of course the pop culture references, especially for those of us, you know, I would say over 40 who catch a lot of these, because I really think a lot of these, not a lot, maybe a lot of them would be lost on somebody who's 22 years old. Right.
Yeah.
So for example, one of my favorite examples was when he cuts open Ronald Reagan and he slices the Gipper. Fucking jelly beans come out. He's
Jelly
like,
beans come out.
Still eating jelly beans. You're fucking dead. That was great. But if you didn't grow up with the Gipper having the jar of jelly beans on the what was the name of the desk in the Oval Office?
The Resolute desk.
The Resolute desk. He had a jar, and he was famous for that. But if you're not from that time period, he doesn't get. You don't get it.
I mean, I didn't personally get it, but I kind of figured it was something like that. So you know.
Yeah, and I love things like there was the A-list presidents and there was the D-list president, like the Zachary Taylors. Even me, and I study
like
history
10 through 15.
Yeah,
you know?
I study history. I'm like, we had a president named Zachary Taylor. I don't know. Okay. There was so many good things going on here. The fight scenes were so over the top, gory and bloody. It was so much. It was just pure fun. If there's a reason why I don't care for comic book movies, I really don't. Like, you know, the what's the one with Thanos and the snap? Infinity War.
Infinity War.
It's literally the only movie I've ever seen in a theater that I fell asleep. So I'm like this. Deadpool, I will line up to see Deadpool. And now reading this, I see where it came from. I see where it came from, and I see the inspiration and why, because my understanding wasn't Ryan Reynolds like a fan and he kind of really pushed to have this movie made. I see why now. And he was a perfect choice for the movie.
Yeah, I think his voice now.
What was that?
When you read a Deadpool comic, you read it in his voice.
Well, now I do, and it's a perfect fit. It's a perfect fit, man. I really enjoyed it, John. I got to say.
You know what? I'm very happy. It's a little bit bittersweet because I feel like I have set the bar so high now for you that nothing else I can assign is gonna match it. So it's
we won't be friends anymore in 2026 unless Larry.
Not at all.
I want to add one thing. Thing.
Go ahead.
So as much as Deadpool Wade is this comedic character, and he doesn't give up, blah blah blah, but you see that part of him that is human. When what's her name? Preston, the agency, she had her neck snapped. Spoiler alert. I'm sorry. And I literally was reading the comic. As I was reading the comic, I said out loud, "Oh shit!"
Yeah,
because you start liking that character. Remember, I don't know Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know who she is. I learned her on this comic book thread.
You like her,
that relationship. And when she died, I was like, "Oh no." And I really felt for Wade when he was like, she's the only person who believed in me. And it was a very human moment. So it wasn't just crazy, gory, great comedy, action, art. There was also a very sensitive side to it, a very human side to it.
Which is one of the reasons he, like, toward the end, he just got angry. He was just like, I'm fucking pissed now. And he's one of those people, like, once you cross that line, you are fucked. So, yeah. I did want to kind of point out one of the more interesting puns, maybe not more interesting. I don't know. One of the puns that stood out to me was when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was brought back, and he goes, "You have nothing to fear except me." I said, okay, all right. Like, really though, I'm like, okay, nothing to fear except me. Yeah, all right, throw it in there. Why not? Because there's a million of them. Put it in there. Now, so as for the agent whose neck was snapped, we do have good news at the end of the very end of the story, is that Michael, the necromancer, put her consciousness into Deadpool so that
Oh yeah,
when
that's
he
right.
looks in a reflection, it's her. And this actually carries on through the series as well.
Oh yeah.
Like all of the all of all of the things. Fucking Ben Franklin's ghost, Preston's reflection, like he will talk to her in his own reflection. Like through the series.
So one thing about this comic, at one point when they're meeting with Doctor Strange takes Deadpool aside and like whispers something to him, and like it's some mystery that we're supposed to find out later.
Yeah.
They've
We
never
never find it
revealed that.
out.
I've kind of gone down the
Yeah.
rabbit hole. I was on Reddit today, kind of looking to see if anybody knew what it was, because I didn't remember if it ever was told. Apparently, this is just a hanging thread that they've never ever come back to.
He goes, "Oh, that's not good."
Yeah, but we don't know.
And then he just doesn't give a shit for the rest of the comic.
Yeah.
So Doctor Strange was able to see Ben Franklin's ghost as well, and he's still angry at Ben Franklin for sleeping with his girlfriend. And
Yeah, in the 70s.
it said this was a real thing that happened. Look it up. I
Yeah.
looked it up. That was a real thing that happened in the comics.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he goes like, "Oh, come on!" It's like I'm a fucking ghost now. So yeah, but all the same, even though he is a ghost, he's still chasing after women like a weirdo.
Nonstop the entire time.
That is
right.
a great one. I got a
Yep.
question for the comic book guys in the room. So
Sure.
issue number 5 in this series, when they're
Mhm.
up in the space station, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So they got all these monkeys. There's one comic I used to get into when I was younger because it was friggin' hilarious. I don't know if you guys remember this one. It was called Gru the Wanderer. Anybody familiar with
Oh
this?
yeah, I love Gru.
Nah, I didn't.
Gru
Gru
know.
was
awesome.
great. I haven't read
Sergio
Gru.
Aragones.
Yes,
Yes.
that's it.
Absolute chaos and pandemonium. It was a
Love
riot.
that.
Actually, a lot of it reminded me, like the comedy in it was reminding me of this. Did you
Uh-huh.
notice there's a monkey that points to a button in one scene and he says Gru?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah. I
Okay.
did.
do you think that was some kind of reference to I maybe I'm reaching, but I've never pictured a monkey making a sound that goes Gru.
Hmm.
What are your guys'
Could have
thoughts on
been.
that?
I think there was also a character named Gru, not just Gru the Wanderer. Wasn't there like in Guardians of the Galaxy or like one of the Marvel movies? There was
Well, there was
somebody
Groot.
Gru.
Groot, the tree.
No, I
yeah,
know there
that's
was
the,
Groot,
That's
That's the one.
Yep.
but there was also a Gru. Oh, I'm thinking Gru. I'm thinking of Despicable Me. There was Gru.
Yeah, Gru from
Oh,
Despicable Me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that could have been because that is spelled. But the way that monkey is saying that is exactly how
It's spelled just like Gru. It's spelled just like Gru.
Yeah.
And
and
like
those
Gru,
guys have to know what that comic is.
I would be
Yeah.
shocked if they didn't. And I mean, shit, even I know what that comic is, right?
Yeah.
And if you remember, like if you guys, you guys have read Gru the Wanderer, you know that when he would fuck up and create chaos, his line was, "Did I Gru?"
No,
Right?
he wouldn't say that. He wouldn't say that. He would
Didn't
say,
he-
"Did I err?"
Oh, I
Did
thought
I
he said
err?
Gru. All right, never mind. I take it back.
Yeah, did I
Well,
err?
either
Like, did I
way-
err instead of did I error? Did I
Yeah.
err? Like,
So
But
I
either
was just
way, I
wondering
mean-
when I saw that and I saw that written, I was like, immediately jumped out at me.
nice.
Because
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I didn't even think of that. It did. That was one of those things that it stuck out to me. I was like, Gru. Like
Gru.
I was
Yeah.
thinking, all right, is it just a monkey going like Gru? Like, is that
Yeah.
what he's doing? Or
Yeah.
I
like,
was
does it mean
thinking that
something?
because I didn't know the Gru the Wanderer thing. Did I err? Sounds like Steve Urkel, but more intelligent.
Yeah.
No. If it's Gru, it's not more intelligent.
No.
Believe me.
Yeah,
That
no,
is a
and
dumb-
Gru came out. Yeah, Gru came out way earlier, and yeah, was way dumber. He was
Jo-
basically he was supposed to be stupid Conan.
Yeah,
Ah.
yeah.
That was
I
the whole
see.
thing.
I see. Okay.
Who
And they
accidentally
actually
like
started it. It didn't it first come up. It was originally in Mad Magazine, but they would draw it in the margins
Yes, I
of the
heard that.
magazine. So it's like as you flip the pages, it would be like a couple, and it wouldn't even be panels. It would just be like action going across the top, of the margin of the comic book, like outside the panels. It was it was
Nice.
It was a
so
great comic,
genius.
man. John, if you ever
Now-
want to read something truly absurd, that's a comic to read.
All right.
Yeah.
Now
We should do that one at some point.
At some point, we definitely will. Now, I want to point out that after Deadpool defeats Zombie Lincoln in the boxing ring, he comes back again as a Lincoln Ducky zombie in Taft's bathtub.
Just the head.
Taft says, "Leave my Lincoln Ducky alone." This book, I mean, this series of books, this whatever arc, was one of the most entertaining things I've ever read, heard, or seen on TV. It was a joy to read it. It was a joy to read it again. It was a joy to talk about it. It was quite remarkable.
I agree. I think they killed it with this one. They really did, man. They really did a good job. There was so many little details. Did you notice his magic book at the end of the series? I think you see
Necronomicon.
It's the fucking Necronomicon.
Necronomicon.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
That was awesome.
He goes, Zombie Washington got the book. I think he knows how to use it a little better than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the constant jokes with Washington. It was like, my teeth, not fire. My teeth are made of wood.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. What time is it?
Yes.
2:30.
Oh,
that was that was one that made me groan.
But it's like, he's gonna make that joke. He's gonna make it. How are you not gonna make that joke with Lincoln's teeth? What time is it? 2:30.
That's great.
Because I remember that one from that Johnny Knoxville movie where where he goes into the Special Olympics.
Oh, The Ringer. God, that movie's
The
funny.
Ringer.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ken. Go ahead.
For the wrongest kind of funny.
The wrongest.
Well, it's funny. I went into that movie thinking I'm gonna watch this and I'm gonna be ashamed at laughing, right?
Yeah.
But what I have to say is I walked away from that movie, The Ringer, and I was like, I didn't expect this to be so respectful of the disabled people because the brunt of they were all cool. It was him. He was the stooge.
Yeah.
It was, I was really shocked. I actually enjoyed that movie more than I thought I would. But anyway, back to the Deadpool.
Yeah. Well, back to the Deadpool. I mean, I feel like everything has been said that needs to be said. You know what? I don't even care. I'm gonna, what's up? What do you have to say, Dave?
There's not yet. I gotta say, felt it. I got affinity. I felt an affinity with Deadpool when he was having his sexual fantasies.
Oh,
the Green Woman. It was She-Hulk. I was like, my man.
But I just thought that's great that he's like Sue Storm and
what's her name? And then there was Dazzler. Dazzler was part of it.
It wasn't Dazzler. It was the White Queen.
The White Queen and Dazzler
Emma
was
Frost are like fighting, and then who's the one that came in on the roller skates?
That
was Dazzler. That was
Dazzler.
Yeah.
Okay.
The White Queen, she was when Kitty Pryde made her debut, the White Queen was her teacher. It was supposed to be her teacher. But then Dazzler came in and got kicked into the ocean by She-Hulk, who, damn man, she is enormous when she picked up Deadpool.
Yeah.
That's a big girl. That's a big woman.
Yep.
Anyway. So, I don't want to bring down the craziness and the humor and all that stuff, but I do want to take this opportunity to express my sorrow toward Dave and I. We have a married couple friends, Alan and Jen, whose dog just passed away yesterday. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention it and at least, say like I knew the dog well, and that dog was psychotic. And that like all the way till the end, that dog was crazy. Their dog Annie, who just passed away last night. So almost 17 years they had that dog.
Yeah.
And
it's a good run.
very, 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 very sorry to hear that she passed away. So anyway, that's just wanted to make that mention before we get into plugs. Let's see. Jason.
You guys can find me on Facebook. Last name is spelled Gurin. I'm in a group over there called Comic Book Villains, where we talk comics of all things, surprisingly.
Nice. All right. Ken.
You can find me on Facebook, Ken Radner. I am in a Facebook group called Star Trek Fans United. And also there is a podcast associated with that Facebook group that also has its own Facebook page that is called Star Trek The Undiscovered Podcast, which a number of people have all you guys. Jason, you have not been on yet, have you? You have been, right?
I've been on once.
Yeah, okay.
That's
So everybody
that's how
here
I met
has
Jason. Because
okay.
Greg threw Jason my way after he was on the show.
Nice. So
Yes.
so I'm on that podcast. I am also now a member of this panel. The Hour of Comics is upon us, which now we did a couple in rapid succession. I'm having a fantastic time. So I'm glad I pulled the trigger on that one.
I will say this: don't get used to doing it so frequently because I'm about to go back to school and I will have very limited time. So, I'm glad you had such a good time with these 2 episodes.
And they did sneak in a Star Trek joke in one of these issues too. I think he was asked to beam me up at one point.
Yes. Yeah, he did. Right. No, he did do that when he transported him to Washington or something like that. They had some kind of psychic link. Transport him to Washington. Told him to beam him up. And I'm also on a subsidiary of Bullshit Hour called This Podcast is Lamb Chops.
That sounds like a great podcast.
Tasty.
It is fantabulous.
It is lamb chops.
It is lamb chops.
It is very much lamb chops.
And Dave.
Well, so let's see. You can find me on Facebook. It's Dave Aguilar, Aguilar. So I'm up there. You can find me on Instagram as basically just Dave. That is not a description. That is the actual name, basically just Dave. You can find me on this podcast. You can find me sometimes on Bullshit Hour with John Seymour. This podcast is Lamb Chops because John is very nice enough to, for whatever reason, likes having me on the show. And then I also have some writing projects I do.
Lara pays me to have you on the show.
That's because I pay her.
She's
really just passing you my money to be on the show.
Just the money gets passed around.
Yeah, exactly. She's like she's like Switzerland in a bank account. And then you could find me my work. I have a little side project I'm writing that I do some short stories and stuff like that. And you can find that's ariesdesk.blogspot.com. That's EYRIES desk, ariesdesk.blogspot.com. If you really want to be depressed and wonder why your life is futile, come there and you'll find out.
Right. As for me, John Seymour, JON space SEYMOUR. That's me on Facebook. I'm making like a tired face, and I'm standing next to Lara. Lara's wearing glasses, and I got like a 5 o'clock shadow going on in the picture. You'll know which picture I'm talking about if you actually bother to look for me. Let's see. The next episode that I do want to record is going to be a Lamb Chops episode, and that is going to be about Pee-wee's Playhouse. It has been a little bit over a year since Paul Reubens passed away, and we got some good episodes lined up that we're going to talk about, and it's going to be a great episode. So it's the Bullshit Hour subsidiary. This podcast is Lamb Chops, Pee-wee's Playhouse. whatever tribute.
I'm excited. I'm excited for that one, man. That was one of
That's
those
right.
shows that I was like, this is for kids, huh? Because there should have been a lot of drugs involved. So it was just
yeah.
that's why I was like, it was a great show. So I'm looking forward to that one.
So yeah, we got that. The hour of comics is upon us. Listen to other episodes. Every episode is entertaining, whether we like the comic or not. We want the whatever. We want the conversation to be fun. So fuck it if we don't like the comic. My band, My Haunted Past, metal band, cool heavy metal band. We are playing November 24th. That is a Sunday, unfortunately. It's a Sunday. We're playing November 24th, Village Pub in Lindenhurst in Long Island. So, I know a couple of guys here who are from Long Island, and I'm looking at them right now. And hey, we're on the ceiling. Yes. Anyway, I hope to see you guys there if you can. We're actually not going on super late. I think we're going to be on about 5-6 p.m. So, it's reasonable. You'll be home by 8:30, the latest. And we're going to have a great time. And I guess that'll be all. So yeah, thanks for coming and discussing this ridiculous comic. And I hope the next one is just as ridiculous, but unless it's another Deadpool story, I don't see how it could be.
Gru.
Anyway. Gru.
We could do Gru.
Yes.
Just saying.
Gru, we could do Gru. Send me a link for that or text me the name of it or something, and I'll take a look. Anyways, this has been a lot of fun, and we will see you next time. So good night, Dave. Good night, Jason. Good night, Ken. Good night,
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everybody.